Hey. Welcome to episode 185 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. This upcoming show, today's show, not this upcoming show, actually today's show is for you if you're like me and you think of acting and you go, oh, nope, I'm not an actor. And it's also for you if you love acting and want to think about acting possibly in a new way. And if you just like Awkwardly Awesome Podcast, thanks for tuning in. The show is for you too. Definitely. And I'll be back after this.
Today's guest, Deb Workman and Jack Bledsoe.
Let me tell you about Deb and Jack. I fell in love with their work when I had the opportunity to see the Santa interviews that they co-directed, which celebrated and showcased people with various disabilities who might not ordinarily get the opportunity to act. Deb is education director and Jack is program coordinator for the Black Hills Playhouse, and they oversee the program that created this extraordinary experience, the Expanding Stage. It's a cutting-edge program taught by them and other brilliant and dedicated people who believe that theater helps everyone find that passion and voice, and thus prides itself on being inclusive of people of all ages and abilities. Please welcome to the Awkwardly Awesome stage, as it were, Deb Workman and Jack Bledsoe. How do you say your last name, Jack?
Oh, you did great, Bledsoe.
Bledsoe. Awesome. And Deb Workman, did you ever own a Walkman?
A Walkman? Heck yeah!
Awesome. So, we're going to get to the amazing things you're creating. But I love to start my guests early in life, especially since I don't really know either of you, so this will all be new to me too, which is exciting. But Deb, if I had known you when you were 7 years old, first of all, where would you have been living?
In Pierce, South Dakota.
Nice. And if I had asked you at 7 what you wanted to be when you grew up, what would you have said?
Probably a dancer or in theater.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you remained consistent.
Right? I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. How about you, Jack? If I had known you at 7, where would we have been?
We would have been in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, wow. That's cool. I mean, maybe we would have went into each other on a playground in Dallas, Texas, but the odds aren't great because I'm from South Dakota, so. If I had asked you, Jack, hey, 7-year-old Jack, what do you want to be when you grew up? What would you have said?
I would have said a theater professional.
Oh, wow. So this is amazing to have 2 out of 3 people on this podcast who knew what they wanted to do when they were 7. 2 out of 3 is not bad.
Not bad.
So Deb, how in grade school, how was your love for dance and theater nurtured? Or was it?
So, yeah, I took dance classes, gosh, from an early age, probably 2nd grade on. I took dance classes, had an amazing teacher and peer, Connie Tweet, who just encouraged everything arts and dance. I am the 4th of 5 children. So my older siblings, my oldest sister was in theater in high school, and they were doing Fiddler on the Roof, and they needed kids. And so I auditioned and got in, and that's where it started, where my love of theater started. I also grew up in the community theater. My mom was involved in the community theater, and I tagged along and then started being in shows.
So how old were you when you got the part in Fiddler on the Roof?
3rd grade.
Wow. What do you remember the feeling when you knew you had gotten that part?
I don't actually remember the moment of that time, but I do remember the feeling on stage and being able to dance on stage and having that energy from the audience.
And how would you describe that feeling?
It's fascinating, and it just warms you. That audience and actor relationship is which is interesting, because I ended up not being a performer. I found other areas that I liked better, but that was my introduction to theater, is just that warm, and the feeling with cast members. You really, it's that family feeling like no other in just this amazing creative environment.
And one more question for right now. What made Carol Tweet a brilliant teacher?
Oh, Connie, gosh, she's super Connie, yeah.
Connie and Carol.
She's a beautiful dancer. She brought in creativity to the dance class, where we had recitals that her and another instructor would let us choreograph part of it. And we were in the creative process that ended up on stage. And I actually went on to become a choreographer. And just being part of that creative team, that you created something worthy of the stage at a very young age. Yeah, there's nothing like it.
How about you, Jack? How did your love for theater develop in grade school?
So yes, I got bit by the bug very early. Some people say, like, you got bit by the theater bug at some time and then you just never stopped doing theater. That's a lot of us theater people's experience. But I was 2 years old when I had the privilege.
You were 2?
Yeah, and I was a pretty active baby. Stories say, people that knew me as a baby. But my parents took me to a professional production of Big River, which is not necessarily a full family show. And it's like almost 3 hours long. And so that was the first time, I think, in my life that I ever sat still while I was awake. Just eyes a gaze, and it was game over from then. So whenever I was 6, I had the privilege of starting dance classes. So same as Deb, got into the dance store first, and then by the time I was 7, I was in my first musical.
Okay, so bunch of questions. I love your parents already. They thought they could take a 2-year-old to a 3-hour. That's awesome. And it worked. I mean, wow. Talk about taking a risk to let your son be part of something and it really working. Do you have memories of watching Big River at 2?
No, I don't remember it. But I do remember. I think I was either 4 or 5 the first time I saw Lion King, and I remember that was the first time I saw a kid on stage, and I was like, I can do this now. What? And it was like that was a huge aha moment. So that's one of my first memories. I think is probably when I was closer to 5. I remember seeing Lion King, just being blown away by that.
And I'm just going to let it go by, but the fact that you saw Lion King when you were 5 means you're much younger than I am. Just let it swim by. It's just going by.
Yep.
Okay, it's
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
So what play a musical were you in at age 7?
I was in an original production of Pinocchio that the director wrote. And I was the youngest of the clan of, like, I think we were called the Bullies. And I think my name was Snuff. And we turned into donkeys because we were the bad kids.
Wow. So what do you both, this is for either of you, what do you think being on stage at a young age added to your life?
Everything. I mean, that was our sense of community growing up. That was freedom to be yourself and be accepted as yourself. Different ways of communicating.
So Deb, you say it's freedom to be yourself, which is interesting in the sense that on stage you're playing a set character and there's a script. So can you talk a little bit about that, how having a script gives you freedom to be yourself?
I think, being someone else, you can experiment with different parts of you and kind of try on different parts. For me, I think I went into dance. I didn't know it at the time, but I'm dyslexic. And I think going into dance, it was another way to tell stories and to communicate without reading. Or, and a lot of times my favorite parts were dance ensembles in shows. I know everyone else wants the main role or the star of the show, but I loved being in part of the dance ensembles.
How about you, Jack? How did acting enhance your childhood?
I would agree with Deb, starting with saying in every way, for sure. But probably the biggest is I wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult with ADHD. But as a kid reflecting, it makes sense that something actually being a part of the action, I think, was probably the first time as a child that I actually got to fully engage with the story, because I could fully connect and fully really probably what was hyper focus even. Just because I was in the story. And so I think engaging with story, because I love story. I love storytelling and listening to stories and learning stories, all that good stuff.
What about stories touches your core?
That's a good question.
I'm glad you're answering it and not me.
I think I love a big whimsical story, like a Roald Dahl. So I think part of my love of story, I think, is the dreaming aspect of the sky's the limit. And dreaming is productive, even if it's not realistic per se. So the dreaming end of it, like big whimsical stories, like Wizard of Oz, is one that we're working on right now. So that's one of my things. I like colorful places and things like that. But beyond that, I really love, especially growing up, getting older, I've really learned to love just learning, I think, new perspective, especially of people that are writing their own story, and you can learn that way, whether it's a culture you're unfamiliar with, or even just like different human experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add to that, Deb?
Well, I absolutely agree. I think it's, humans fascinate me, and that we all have our very own personal stories and journey that we're going on, and yet we mix and mingle with each other. And that's what I love about hearing other people's stories. And Jack touched on it with culture and, all aspects of humans, that you can really learn from them. See how other people responded to certain things in a show or, in a story, and whether it's good or bad. And then, taking it back to your life, going, would I have reacted like that? Would I not have? And just awareness of other people's stories, I think, is so important.
So, speaking of stories, in 2013, Black Hills Playhouse were you approached with a unique opportunity, or did you reach out with a unique opportunity?
So we were approached to do a workshop at first, just a theater workshop for and with people with disabilities.
When you were first approached and heard the idea, what did you? First of all, Jack, were you part of this from the beginning?
So I've been in the educational theater scene for a good hot minute, but I am brand new to this company. So I'm about to celebrate a year with this company, but it's been the best year ever.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So the next few minutes might be a little me talking to Deb, but we'll get back to you. Of course, you can make up some backstory if you want.
He will be, trust me. He will be.
So when you were approached to do this workshop with a group of people experiencing disabilities, Deb, what were your first thoughts?
I was excited. I am blessed with a naive sense of, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we'll figure it out. And that's what's led me in so much of my professional life, luckily for the better. And so I think I was more excited than anything, not knowing what exactly it was going to become.
Had you ever worked with people with disabilities before, or known people with disabilities?
I'm sure I knew people with disabilities, but not worked with them like this.
So what was that first workshop like?
It was not that great. To be perfectly honest, it was not the outcome we wanted. It went fine. It went fine, but it was a huge learning curve. It was a situation that we had kind of wanted the participants to create their own story, and that didn't happen. We got to performance. We did a sharing, and but yeah, it was not what we expected.
But this has evolved into, how many plays have you put on?
We work with a couple different organizations. I mean, with one, this is like the 23rd, I think. Wizard of Oz is the 23rd experience. And, with another company, oh gosh, I don't even know, probably around 15, 20. I'm not even sure. But, what I learned was partnerships are really important, and good partnerships are so valuable. And with that experience, I was the first one to call us back to the table for a meeting saying, wow, look at that. That didn't quite go as planned. And this is what I think we can improve on. This is what we learned. This is what we really liked about it. And, I think in the community of people with disabilities, there's kind of a forced flexibility that you have to have, and I think that allowed us to grow with each other and to let both partners, or all partnerships, grow and change and evolve in what we were doing. And that, you don't always get that in your job. It's you either perform and it's good, or see you later. And these are our relationships that are give and take, and we continue to learn, and it's really become just beautiful programming.
Yeah. When I saw the Santa interviews in December, I was amazed by how all the actors, they just shined, and they all had a part that made sense, and it was exhilarating to watch. So how do you get? I mean, you said you call people back to the table, but it seems like everyone involved would have to develop a tremendous degree of creativity and adaptability to make it to give everyone a role that suits them and make it all work out. For the Santa interviews, how did that creativity come into play?
I think we always, with all our projects, we start by meeting the people, meeting whatever cast we have in place, meeting them and finding out what they're bringing to the table. And then, theater is a huge playground for trial and error, and it's a really safe place for trial and error. And so, that's what we do every day. We try things out, and if they work, great. If not, we shift. And, I think this is a community that knows its way around adaptations as well. And so that's nothing new. Right. And so it really is a great relationship in that way of, we just figure out how to do it. We figure it out. That's what we say all the time. Well, we'll figure it out.
Thankfully, we often are working with scripts where we have the ability to be flexible with it and get to edit it to customize kind of to our needs. And so this one was the premise we read and we really enjoyed it. And we thought it was fun and silly in the best way, especially for Christmas time. So, but there wasn't quite enough roles. And so we knew that we were going to have to write some. And so we had a list of options, but we waited until we had auditions to choose which roles made sense to fill in. And so there really is a hand in the customization of specifically for that show for those characters.
So you invented whole new characters for the wow.
Yes, yes, we got to incorporate a couple new characters that weren't originally in the script.
Wow, that's exciting. What else about rehearsal? What I mean, what are rehearsals like?
Busy from beginning to end. We work the cast very hard. We push them beyond what they think they can do a lot of times. Because like Wizard of Oz, Santa Interviews, was that a music? That was a musical?
Yes.
Wizard of Oz obviously is a musical. And there's movement in it that a lot of times, the cast has not been involved in group movement as we do it in theater. So, being aware of what everyone else is doing on stage, knowing when to enter, when to exit, where to enter and exit. We rehearse in a gym, and then the week of performance, we move up and actually have a stage. So a lot of it is pushing them to imagine things that aren't there yet, that will be come performance time. And a lot of it too is us getting to know them throughout the entire rehearsal process. What kind of adaptations are needed? What kind of prompting is needed? What kind of prompting isn't needed? How they are going to tell us, in Wizard of Oz, we have a cast of 11. 8 of the cast members use wheelchairs. And I think we have 4 that have voice actors. Is that correct, Jack?
Yes, 4.
So when I say 4 actors that have voice actors, so they do not speak verbally. So we have voice actors come in. We use 2 Augustana students and 2 adults to do the voice acting. And they record the lines for them. We introduce that to the cast. And then the cast member determines how they're going to cue Jack, who is running tech, so that they know it's their line and they're going to say their line. So sometimes we have one actor that will raise her hand. Actually, the magic wand to say her line. We have another one that looks to Jack. So we're constantly in rehearsal learning that as well. For those that don't need voice actors, do they need prompting? Do they not need prompting? How do we do that? Sometimes it's I might say a word or 2 of the line, and then they take it from there. Sometimes I might do a hand gesture that lets them know what that line is. So different things like that.
Jack, before you came to Black Hills Playhouse, were you involved with anything like this?
Not like this. I had done, I worked at a theater that had inclusion of all abilities. So just open doors of any resources that we needed to have happen, we would case by case. But it was never, now I'm learning, I don't think that was as widespread known as maybe it could have been. So I was used to accommodating certain actors' needs, and these were children when needed. And so this is working with adults, which is awesome. in a facility that's just fully equipped there with the great staff that we get to hand in hand work with. So this is definitely new for me in that case.
How do you come to say yes to this job opportunity since it's out of what you've done before?
I definitely believe that participating in theater is for all, and I think it can benefit all. And there's lots of ways to participate in theater, whether it's as an audience member or on stage or backstage or in tech, anything like that. Or there's lots of design elements, countless ways to engage in theater. But I believe that is something that I would love for everyone to have access to choose to do or not. And so that was actually one of my big pulling on my heartstrings is this specific programming, the expanding stage.
So you believe theater should be open to all, and then it's awesome you found a position where you really literally get to embody those beliefs every day.
For sure. And it's amazing. I think Deb would agree that it feels like every cast we work with in all of our programming is just constantly teaching us lessons and things as well, which is really cool, whether it's about life or who knows.
I agree. Yeah.
I love that idea. Say more about that. So often as humans we can think that we're serving people with like disabilities or whatever, and all everything's going one way. It's us giving to them, but please, both of you, say more about what these casts teach you about life and.
Oh gosh, well, I think a big one for me is every day is a gift. It is a big one. I feel lucky for where I'm at and what I get to do. And it so shocked me when before the expanding stage program, my husband and I, along with many other people, started a touring company that's part of the Black Hills Playhouse. And when we started that was back in 1999. We really wanted to create underserved or go to underserved populations, right? That's what all organizations, I think, want to do. And for me, I thought, South Dakota, that was really small towns. Okay, yep, they're underserved. Maybe some reservation schools. Okay, that's it. This was an eye-opener to me that this is an underserved population, that they are right next to me. This community of people with disabilities, are one of the first shows I was working on with a lady named Betty. She was, in her late 60s, mid to late 60s, and she had never had the opportunity to be in a show. And that just baffled me, who started in second, third grade, right? That this opportunity to do this. And so that opened my eyes to, and part of it was feeling at home. I mean, that give and take, learning how people communicate. And that was hard for me, being dyslexic. I didn't know I was dyslexic till I was 36 years old. And I just knew I struggled. I struggled in a lot of aspects, and being a different learner, going into these classes every day, we are constantly learning from each other and learning how to communicate in different ways and better ways, and learning how to appreciate differences in a different way.
how did how did you find out at age 36 that you that dyslexia is part of your life?
So I had been really since graduating from high school trying to go to college. And I had attended 5 different colleges and quit all of them.
But
And
you kept like you quit one, but you kept studying at the next college.
yes. And
Wow.
and I told myself, "Oh, I'll do it right this time. I'll do it right
Mm,
this time." So when I was 36, gosh, I think I was pregnant with my 3rd child
mm,
and attempting to go to college yet again. And I finally looked around and I said to my husband, this many people would not be graduating from college if it was this hard. Like there has to be
mm.
something going on.
Oh wow! Holy cow!
And all through my life, like fights with my parents, I'm like, I'm just stupid. They're like, you are certainly not stupid. But no one knew what was going on, and I was just totally withdrawn in school. So at 36, I went to the disability office at USD. We were living in Vermilion at the time, and I felt safe to do that. The head of that department was a Black Hills Playhouse alum.
Mm,
So I knew I had that connection with
mm.
them, and I described what was going on, and they said, yeah, let's get you in for some testing. And so, yeah, at 36, I found out. Answered a lot of questions. Just like Jack was saying, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes sense.
So it sounds like it almost was a relief to finally.
Oh, definitely. I mean, because you think there's something wrong with you. Why are all these people graduating from college? Why can't I do it? So you think that, and even at that point, I mean, I still felt something was wrong with me, right? Like I have since learned and matured, and I'm much wiser now in my age. I like to think, but to really know the importance of people that think differently.
Really know the importance of people who think differently.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean that is needed in this world.
Well, yeah.
And it's not that celebrated, but I'm working on it. The world needs to know that different thinkers are needed.
Eh, the world also needs to know that people should turn off their cell phones beforehand.
It was pretty.
Thanks.
I thought it was just like a revelation or like that aha moment. Like, oh,
They're different thinkers. I need. Jack, you mentioned ADHD as part of your journey. At what time of life did you find out about that was part of who you were?
I went to a mental health professional that tried to start treating or assisting with my ADHD in that sense at 18. So that was the first time that was really labeled of any kind. But I eventually at 22 had the great opportunity to do a full neuropsych eval, and so that was testing over I think 16 weeks. Every week I went in for
Over
a couple
16
hours.
weeks.
Yes,
That's
yes.
very complete testing.
Yes.
Wow.
And so so then that's a little bit more legitimate documentation of ADHD, but also some slower processing of reading specifically. Because my mom is an educator, and so I was tested multiple times as a child for dyslexia, and that wasn't the disconnect with reading. It was ADHD and some slower processing that now I know. But yeah, so I think Deb and I definitely have a similar shared experience of we love learning. We love learning. Even now we love learning, but school was really hard. School was really hard, even though that's supposed to be like the place to learn. So that's an interesting, but both of us have a lot of experience throwing, kind of like you throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, for different ways of learning. And then with this expanding stage programming, we get to do some of that experimenting with others instead of just with our own selves and our own brains.
This is so great. So what would you say to a student, whether it be in grade school, high school, or college, listening right now, who's just feels they're struggling so much in school? What would you tell them, Jack?
Tell the adults in your life that you trust, whether that's your parents or your teachers, and just, yeah, I would say the more you could communicate, the better. With any unique struggle you feel like that. Don't
And
struggle
that's
in
really
silence.
hard. That makes you really vulnerable. That's really hard to do. But that's when you can start getting some answers, or there's so much technology and so many people out there that want to help and that have ideas, or I mean, when you're in that situation, you think it's only you, and literally 1 in 5 students have dyslexia. That's a lot of
One
people
in
out there.
5. Wow, that's 20% of the population.
So you are not the only one that learns like that, and there's so much out there that can help, but it's really being open to ask for help, I think. And that's hard to do.
How about you? Oh, you already said Jack. Yeah. Okay. So on the theme, you said, Deb, that it's when we have something going on that we don't like, it's easy, or at least I find it easy, to think we are the only one. How does being part of any production, especially expanding stage, expand the sense of community and show you're part of a community and not the only one?
Yeah, well, I think these performances productions are just so unique. It's such a welcoming community already that this cast they're used to all thinking, moving, talking differently, and that's incredibly accepting in that environment. I think that's another area where when we as a company come in, you're just so accepted, and we're all trying new things at the same time, and just that shared experience. That's what theater is, right? Whether you're an audience member or on stage, it's just the shared experience that is only happening in this moment, and then it's gone. And that just creates a different kind of bond.
Jack, we haven't talked about this yet, but what effect have you observed this play, or these plays or musicals, having on the audience?
It's such a cool community to be in, because they end up in specifically one of the organizations, the one that we did Santa interviews with, they there's a lot of what we could call alumni, like that have been on stage. And so that's cool when they get to watch their friends. But and to getting the well-rounded perspective. But I think Deb, through the years, we're often working with people now, since we've done 23 with this organization. We see returners, and just the growth show to show is amazing. Especially what I've experienced that I think is amazing is it's crucial in this environment, in any rehearsal environment, but in this one as well, that it feels like a safe place to, because rehearsal should be a place where you feel like you can try things that might not work. And that's why there's no audience in rehearsal, because it might not, you're just trying things. And so it can be a very vulnerable place. So it feeling safe is just super crucial. But what I've noticed is, because there will be returners in most of our casts now, that energy from day one of their several productions they've done, their confidence in being vulnerable and safe with us right off the bat, seeing their peers of the ones that are making their debut, that's contagious. So it's really cool. It's really cool, I think, the impact that has, that the cast is having on each other. That's been a really cool thing that I've noticed and seen just since I came into it after it's been pretty far developed.
How about for parents, family members, and friends? What effect do you see on them?
Yeah, I think families see a different side of their family member.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. I mean, I had a parent come up to me saying, and her son was in a production, and her son uses a wheelchair, and said, "I've never seen him dance." And I was like, "Oh, that's super interesting." And here too, kind of the naive side of me, well, sure you can. Everyone can. And comments like that. I mean, we have, families travel in to see these performances. They've never seen their family members like that, be able to do something like this.
It's interesting how we can see each other in certain contexts and kind of get used to, okay, that's who that person is. But when we see them in another context, it's like, wow, I don't have any idea what this person's capable of. This is exciting.
Right? We never know what other people are capable of.
And often don't know what ourselves are capable of. So that's back to that safe space to be able to try things.
You mentioned the safe space of rehearsal, and one of the things that's kept me out of acting is, I mean, as you two talk about it, it sounds amazing, and it just sounds really fun, but like acting, as I've thought about it, is memorizing lines exactly, and if you make mistakes, it's a big deal, and if you move wrong, it's a big deal, and on and on and on. The way I've traditionally thought about acting is this endless source of potential mistakes, and that makes me go, oh.
I think, first of all, I think theater itself is evolving in the bigger picture of theater. I mean, I think there was a time when perfection, and everyone has to be perfect. And it's really also, what environment do you want to put yourself in and be in? But I do think more and more people are learning to meet others where they're at, and then how can you support that? And whether it's on stage or off, I mean, there's people also think about theater as just performance, and that is one aspect of theater, but there's a business side of theater and a design side of theater, and there's so many different parts that people can be involved in. They can find a place where they're comfortable.
what messages in general would you say theater has for such society? That's a big question.
That's a big question.
Jack?
I would say endless. You have teamwork when you're working with a cast and an ensemble. You really get to practice in rehearsals being brave, which is I think a great thing to practice.
Yeah.
Depending on the show, you are working with exploring movement, exploring vocalization, exploring expression, exploring feeling, exploring someone else's perspective. So there's a lot of exploring that goes into it. And then sometimes we're engaging with content of shows, or I guess always, where there's oftentimes things like whether it's a word that I didn't know before doing the show, but it really cements that in my brain of the learning aspect of just language, or sometimes it's older technology because of the time period it was in. And I'm like, what's that? And so you end up researching. So I don't know, endless. But that's only from the participation side. From audience, I think there's even more. It's just like the endless list of benefits that I think any art has, but especially performing arts.
I think with the storytelling aspect of it, it's teaching people empathy. You're hearing other people's stories.
Yes.
You're feeling other people's stories, and that is really important.
Yeah. In the empathy, it occurs to me that it's good to feel connection to like a large variety of other people that you might not otherwise. But the empathy also shows us that we're not our only one, or that we are not the only one with challenges, with confusion, with not knowing exactly how things work. And that's a big deal. That's community again, I guess.
That's community, yeah.
With the capital C.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say to someone who like me or someone else listening who just says, hey, I'm not, hey, Jack and Deb, what you're doing is wonderful, but I'm not an actor?
I think first of all, it's fine not to be an actor. If that's not a place that you want to explore. I think if it is a place that is intriguing to you, go try it. There's what's the worst that could happen, right? I am one in the belief that just try a lot of different things, and you don't know what that's going to lead to. There's a lot of different ways to be creative out there. Just go and be creative.
What would you say to someone like me, Jack?
What I would add to that is there's also opportunities out there to explore even acting and performing without an audience. So, for example, at the beginning of this year, Deb and I got to work on a class with a different organization where we did Mad Libs theater. And so that did not culminate in any type of formal performance. We just got to play with performing in a class setting. And so there was several participants that weren't interested in diving all the way into the full show opportunities that there's been in the past. But they were interested in starting with the class. And several of those individuals that were brand new to it would like to do shows now. So that's really cool. And there's a couple that are excited to remain audience members.
And Jason, you say maybe not an actor, yet you're doing a podcast, leading a podcast. Not too
But
far.
oh man, part of my mind's like, but that's way different. But maybe not.
Maybe not.
There's
I-
lots of forms of theater. One of the fun things we got to learn with Mad Libs is we collaborated on the script part, but then actually the action we were exploring was what we would call improvisational theater, so without a script. And so that completely takes the skill of memorization out of the picture. But it's about just going with the flow and your own ideas, which is a whole other challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to ask, what is Mad Libs theater?
So
Great
Mad
question.
Libs,
Yes.
right? So Mad Libs, I don't know, as a kid you might have read it where there's a story built and then you add in like nouns, verbs, things like that. They'll ask you for it. But you're adding in these words not knowing what the story is. So then, you just ask a group of people, I need a person, place, or thing. And then you write in like whatever, castle. And then when you're writing, it's actually a pirate story and they just, landed at the door of the castle or things like that you retell the story in the goofiest way possible.
Oh, so you fill out the nouns and the verbs before you read the story.
Yes.
And then you act that out?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty fun.
It was great fun.
Really
it was
fun.
really goofy.
That's awesome. So
We'll have to do that sometime, Jason.
Oh,
Yeah.
sounds great. Yeah, I would love to. So I ask everyone this question. Guess this question. What does imperfect best mean to you? What does doing your imperfect best mean to you? To me, it means having a vision of the best and then going for it. And then when you make mistakes, there's uncertainties, learning from that and going forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Deb?
For me, I think it's being authentic and being comfortable and being okay with yourself, and you will do your best.
You naturally do your best if you're authentic and okay with yourself. I love that. How about you, Jack? What does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
To me, it means focusing on process more than the product of any life venture or task or journey of any kind, and being able to celebrate the process and celebrate the effort, the things that we can control. That's what we can celebrate. The outcome is not necessarily always in our control, or oftentimes isn't in our control. But the effort, putting effort towards something is always something to be proud of and to celebrate. And I think that puts a positive spin on life that helps me wake up and put my shoes on every day, for sure.
Powerful. Well, thanks so much, Deb and Jack, for being here, and thanks for creating theater, creating community, creating brilliance, helping people realize that they can do things they didn't know they were capable of. Thanks for all you do.
Well, right back at you, Jason. Thanks for
Yes.
creating a platform and sharing other people's stories. It's amazing. We're honored to be here.
Yes.
I love doing it. Oh my gosh. Talking with them, it almost makes me want to go out and act. Almost, not quite, but getting closer. And two, it's just so exciting. people are doing innovative things to help people form community and to bring out the best in other people. And isn't it just cool? I mean, we're each doing cool things on our own, but sometimes when we're doing it each day, we lose sight of its coolness. But when I talk to people I don't know very well, it's like, wow, you're doing amazing stuff, and it's great to delight in the amazing things that the people are doing, but then also remember that you are doing amazing things, and to treasure what you contribute to this world. Well, thanks for tuning in. Please comment if that brings you joy. It will bring me joy. And thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching this live or on replay, and tune in for another great episode of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast next week. Talk to you later.